So, a very good morning and welcome to CCFM Studios to Nico Kleynhans. He's part of the furniture, so to speak. And we didn't have Nico in studio last week because last week was Youth Day. But this morning, Nico chatting to us when democracy does not seem to make sense.
Okay. Yes, we live in a very complex country. And I worry sometimes when democracy breaks down, how we as South Africans tend to react. And often, in most cases, we get angry. And then we try and drop out of the process. We say, I'm going to sulk by not voting. That's really not the solution. There are better ways of dealing with it. And our problem came about because in 1994, we had a very complex situation that we had to fix. And we had to find all kinds of ways of being inclusive. And so the Constitution decided that we would have three spheres of government. One was local government, which was basically where you're voting within your city. One was the province, where you were voting at provincial level. And then, of course, we have the national circus, which is sometimes called parliament. And we vote for them as well. And each of those have a different form of democracy. It's supposed to be the same, but we are represented differently. Now, at local government level, prior to 1994, it was the weakest of the elections. I mean, you would have literally some elections where 8% of the population would appear to vote. I grew up in a town called Dispatch. In one election, there was one vote for the United Party, and everybody else voted for the National Party. At election time, the officials would go to all the retirement centers, and there were a lot. They would serve coffee and biscuit. All the pensioners would enjoy themselves, and then there would be a line of cars outside to make sure they all got picked up and went to share their vote. It was a tradition. But you could get a postal vote fairly easily. And it took a while for the dead people to be removed off the postal vote system. So we also called those elections Resurrection Day, because you would simply pull a postal vote in the name of somebody who had passed away since the previous election, and a friend would vote. It was clear, everybody knew in Dispatch which party you were going to vote for, and the election happened. Now, today we've got 278 municipalities in South Africa, and I live in Cape Town, and I live in the Marina de Gama. Now, if I have a hassle, I know who my representative is. I know what her phone number is, and I know which political party she represents. I can get hold of her, and I know how to nag. I'm a political activist, and I can make sure that the changes that need to happen, happen. I also spend a lot of time in Delft, and there the story is more of a challenge. So there, if there's a pothole in the road, I know it's going to take 4 weeks longer to get somebody to react and to fix it. And if a traffic light goes down, I know it's going to take 24 hours longer for me to get something fixed there than it is here. So I recognize it's not all equal, and I recognize that in some areas it's more of a challenge and more difficult to get hold of somebody other than a call center operative. At provincial level, we feel more distant often. And again, I speak as a resident of the Western Cape. Some time ago, the health department in the Western Cape put a regulation in place that did not comply with national regulations. And I tried to get hold of somebody to complain. And every time I phoned, I would get hold of a call center. I would get hold of somebody who did not understand what I was trying to say, who didn't understand the regulations, who would take all the details, promise to get back to me, and of course would not. So then I had to again use other influences and forces. I then found the correct person, explained why I was going to log a formal complaint, and within 4 weeks, the regulation for the local was changed. So there, the democracy doesn't seem to work as efficiently that it works on city level. And I wonder again, how does that affect those of us who feel that something has to change at province level? Do we feel less empowered? Do we feel democracy doesn't work as well at provincial level? Now we come to national. I have very strong feelings about that. Quite frankly, I wish the president would get hold of the minister whose department is delaying paying 350 rand a month to 10 million people. I would like him to have a come to Jesus meeting with that minister and say to him, until you pay those people, I would like you not to draw a salary. I would like the next 5 officials below you not to draw a salary, so that the people of South Africa know you are concerned that that money is not being paid. You're concerned about inefficiencies, and they can then see you actually care about what's happening, because you're not doing anything. The public doesn't see you doing anything, and therefore it looks as if our democratic process has failed. But of course, that is unlikely to happen. But I think if it were to happen, that department would get its feet in order quite quickly. My sister told me a story last week. She discovered a young girl who had been molested by a coach. That molestation had happened 5 years ago. The prosecutors were aware of what he had done. My sister also discovered that he was HIV positive, and that that young girl was not the only one who'd been affected by him. And she was absolutely furious. And she said, well, what is it that I can do? And what she did was she identified the victims. She spoke to the families. And in that process, were able to identify a couple of more victims. She found the prosecutor. For 2 years of her life, she visited, she pushed, and she made noises. That court case has now finally happened. He's been charged. He's been jailed for a very long term. And now it's a matter of getting social workers to start the process of dealing with the victims. But she took a lot of energy, but she decided that just getting angry was not the solution. So what I want to say to all the listeners, what do we do when the democratic process fails? Do we just get angry? Or are there things we can do? Are there people we can form alliances with and begin to make a difference? It seems to me that we have more power than we're actually using. So rather than just getting angry and give up on South Africa, we have such a beautiful country. Why not work with others who feel the way you do? And let's begin to make democracy work. Thank you.